Morning, folks. Morning, Neil. Morning, Barbara. Morning, Karen. Morning, Nancy. Morning, Stephen. Morning, Stephen. Good morning, Dunk. Morning, Woodpet. Morning, Eddie. Morning, Britain. That's our democratic deniers. Democracy deniers, sorry. Morning, Brian. Morning, John, the van driving legend, still a driving god. And morning, Alexander, Margaret, George, John, MC, and Struthers. Morning, Barbara. Morning, Karen. Morning, Nigel. Sorry, evening, Nigel. Nigel's in Oz. Hi, Tricia. Hi, Jax. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Margaret. How are you today? Kirsty? Rosalind? How are we doing? 78. Not bad, nearly there, folks. Let a few Marys get on board, then we'll get this broadcast underway. Thank you very much, John. That is jolly generous of you. An update on the fund, guys. We're just running about. Let's see where we're at with the fund, shall we? Just for interest. YouTube Studio. We're roughly £170 at the moment, folks. That's great going. Thank you very much for your generosity. And absolutely outstanding. And once we get things sorted out with YouTube, we'll start distributing the funds in cooperation with myself, Davey, and Indy 2 Cafe. Okay, so thanks very much for your generosity. Now, there's some more than hundreds on board, so let's get this broadcast underway. Indy Truck Davey out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is overcast, reasonably warm at 7 degrees, no bad for this time of year. So, wow, thank you very much, Alexander. That's massive. Very generous. Anyway, as I was saying, it's overcast, 7 degrees, and a wee bit windy. So that's your forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look out your own bloody windy. All right, this is a news review for the 6th of the 2nd, 2023. Here in Scotland. All right, so Monday for the colony of Scotland. Monday started with two main stories in the rags: the GRR overblown Rammy and Liz Truss branded delusional. Right, on the GRR, the mainstream media have found the crack they needed to fuel discord in the SNP. Now, the majority of SNP MSPs and MPs support the reform. A small fragment in the party don't. It would appear that small percentage of people don't understand how democracy works. Okay, I don't like or understand the GRR, but I'm not transgender, it doesn't affect me. All right. But what I do understand is democracy. Right. We elect MSPs to make legislation. Some oppose it, others support it. It goes to a vote in the Parliament, and the majority wins through. Okay. Now, that's generally what happens. I'm not really one for the GRR, but the majority, are in favour, so Davey puts it to one side. And Davey will monitor this bill now and see how this bill performs. And that's what opposing MSPs should do, because bad legislation can be overturned. What they have to do now is sit back, watch the legislation if it ever makes it onto the statute. And if it's bad legislation, then campaign to bring it back before the Parliament. It's the same with any political campaign. When you lose, you dust yourself down, you have a look at the reasons why you lost, and then you go again. Well, that's how democracy works. So that small number of MSPs and party members who are disgruntled with this, do what you're meant to do. Go with the majority, but monitor the outcome. And if the outcome's no good, then campaign to bring it back before the floor of the House in Holyrood, and either amend it or repeal it. But this douchey is being manufactured in the mainstream media. They're also saying that they've got ministers telling people, if you don't like the legislation, stand down. That's not how it works either, Miss Somerville. And the First Minister's quite right to say, no, you're welcome to stay in the party, you're welcome to monitor this bill. If it turns out to be bad legislation, if it ever makes it on the statute, then we can always recall it and do it again. Simple as that. It's no bloody rocket science. All right. Now, on anyway, the other mainstream in the rags is Liz Truss, the loony. Liz says she was correct in her policies when she crashed the banking sector, wiped 40% of UK pension funds, she sent the pound into a free fall, and also triggered the largest interest rate hikes in years. Causing mass misery right across the UK. Anyway, the delusional one, Truss. She says her record in her short time in office was absolutely correct, but she was destroyed by loony left-wing bankers. Left-wing bankers. Oof. Just goes to show you that Truss is definitely delusional. Mental. Left-wing bankers. Oof. You know, it's recorded her little wheeze cost each UK citizen, or cost UK citizens £30 billion. 68 million into 30 billion. That's about 461 quid a head. Wow! And she thinks she was right. Oof. Now, you're right, by the way. It was insider trading. Anyway, Looney Liz says left-wing bankers brought her down. No, Liz, what brought you down was unfettered, uncosted tax cuts for the rich. Even the rich didn't like it. You know, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, given uncosted tax cuts to the rich, not even the rich liked it. Because what the rich realised was that this would speed up a civil war down that road between the majority being the 99% and the 1%, the greedy buggers that have everything. The greedy buggers that have everything went, whoa, we can't take any merit at this point in time. Or else there'll be civil unrest. So she wasn't brought down by left-wing bankers. She was brought down by right-wing bankers trying to protect what they already have. And as a result, the economy spiraled out of control. Oofed. Mental. Right. Anyway, considering Liz Truss actually got a degree in politics, philosophy and economics from Oxford's Merton College at the university. Thank you, Alex. That's very generous of you. I cannot believe for 2 seconds that Merton College hasn't looked at this latest bunch of twats that went through their doors and went, well, maybe we should have a look at what we are teaching here. Because countless Tory MPs have come through Oxford. Tories go to Oxford, Labour go to Cambridge. Yeah, the old school kayak. Anyway, if I was Oxford's Merton College, who teach philosophy, politics and economics, I'd be looking at my curriculum and going, how the hell have we managed to produce so many ex-Tory MPs and Prime Ministers who didn't understand politics, philosophy or economics? Mental cases. Moving on, Monday here in Scotland, and the new Scottish welfare system is in the spotlight. Apparently the pandemic closed down for 2 years, and the Scottish and Westminster government's lack of interaction with each other, because Westminster is ignoring Holyrood, means new benefits powers over disability benefits will be delayed till 2025-2026. The cuckoos in the nest who are egging on the Westminster government to ignore Holyrood. to ignore Holyrood are screaming about the delay in transfer of powers. The delay in transfer of powers in this case is down to a 2-year shutdown to the pandemic and the lack of interaction between the present Westminster government and Holyrood. But as we know, it is the present Westminster government's policy to ignore Holyrood and undermine it. So the cuckoos and the nest screaming failure, just the usual push. Right, moving on Monday, and Dumfries and Galloway council workers prepare for strike action as they submit requests for 12% pay rise for 2023-2024. The council have said the demand is not affordable. Now, I wonder how many will lose their jobs due to Labour's lackey trade unions making demands councils cannot meet. It's time for Dumfries and Galloway council workers and council workers right across Scotland to look at each other in the eyes again and ask each other, is it my job or their job that's going? As their trade union leaders make demands they know the councils cannot meet. The councils, the Scottish Government, all subject to this cost of living crisis, energy crisis, a Brexit which is pushing up the cost of goods coming in for services. It's not sustainable, but it was never meant to be sustainable. Disaster capitalists are raping us like hell. If you hear them, what Michelle Mone have already head for the hills, Sunak will probably end up in the USA with all the money that he's dodged in taxes and what he stole for a public purse. Apparently one of his companies has got huge investment in the vaccine programme. Oof. Right, also Monday, Highlands and Islands airport staff announced new round of strikes. Like everyone else in the public sector, they were offered 5%, which they refused. The next strike dates will be the 17th and 20th of February 2023. So, more disruption for the Lifeline services flying into the islands. Right, moving on Monday, and down that road, it's announced that Rishi Sunak to hold mini reshuffle of his cabinet. It's rumoured Dominic Raab to leave the cabinet to avert stooshes over bullying accusations. This comes as polling shows only 7% of public in England and Wales believe Sunak can sort out Tory sleaze scandals. Why would Sunak want to sort them out? If people got short memories. When all the stealing for the public purse was going on during the pandemic, guess who was the bloody Chancellor? Guess who wrote off over 13 billion quid a year money to dodgy loans and rotten PPE? Guess who also shut down the National Crime Agency looking into dodgy loans and bounce back loans and furlough loans? Guess who put a stop to the National Crime Agency looking into it? Rishi bloody Sunak. He's no intention of stopping the sleaze. He's the centre of the universe when it comes to Tory sleaze. For almost 3 years, when Bojo, the clown, was Prime Minister, this guy was the guy that set up the VIP fast lanes, the dodgy PPE. This guy overseen no due diligence when hoarding furlough money to people like his wife and his Tory chums in the cabinet's pals. The same applies with bounce back loans. Sunak is the centre of the sleaze. Oh, some people have got bloody short memories. Right, Monday, and the Guardian are reporting that the Rwanda immigration programme could be underway by the end of 2023. The paper reports it does not think that the European Court of Human Rights will overturn the bill passed by the UK Parliament to ship people to Rwanda. The headline reads, Suella Braverman's Rwanda dream could come true. Vile woman. daughter of those who came here through immigration to seek asylum and a better life, wants to stop others from getting what she got. Vile creature. Right, moving on Monday, and still doing that road, and more trouble at Mill for Sunak. Senior Tories have said his threat to remove the UK from the European Court of Human Rights is just willy waving, and that he would face a Commons defeat if he tried to pass a bill to pull us out of the European Court of Human Rights. Former Tory Justice Minister Sir Robert Buckland warned Sunak of Tory rebellion if he tries to remove us from the European Court of Human Rights. And Robert Buckland also says that if Sunak did drag us out of the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, then that would make us as much a rogue state as Russia, who are no part of the ECHR. Now, so it looks like we'll be staying in the ECHR because the Tories don't want to leave it. Right, also Monday, and the threat of a trade war with the EU is back on the cards, as senior EU officials say. The EU retained law bill will affect EU traders' ability to trade into the UK. Right now, EU businesses have the edge over UK businesses as UK government does not place checks on goods entering the UK. This lack of checks has led to an increase in illicit goods reaching the UK via the EU. Now, the EU retained law bill will see thousands of UK-EU trade regulations binned, costing an estimated $50 billion to UK businesses, as they will then have to certify everything twice under UK trade regulations and under EU trade regulations, as if trading with the EU hasn't become more difficult as it is. Now, what will happen is, when this bill goes through and the ministers get the power to scrap anything they bloody want, because that's exactly what's happening here. It's not the Parliament who'll decide what laws are bad and should go, it's individual ministers. Right, the EU will probably just place an embargo on UK goods into the EU, as they would no longer be able to guarantee customers in the EU that they were getting goods of a similar or higher quality to what they would be able to buy within the EU. Now, the British Chamber of Commerce don't want this going through because they are in trouble as it is. Thank you very much for that, Reverend of Wrestling. Perth Hospital ambulance, no ambulances waiting. One person in A&E, 9 AM. Then 10 AM, no ambulance, 3 in A&E. Thank you very much, Jim. It would appear that things are still set on the route there. That's marvellous. It's GP services I'm looking at now. So any stories about your GP services, inbox me, I'll put them on my timeline. All right. Anyway, the EU are probably going to just shut the doors on the UK if we go into dual regulatory standards, because it makes life difficult for businesses in the EU, and the EU have already realigned their supply chains. Okay, moving on. Monday, and down that road, Lord Justice Edis orders English and Welsh courts to stop signing warrants to allow power companies to force poor people onto prepaid meters. Lord Ellis, who oversees all businesses in England and Wales courts, has ordered that the issuing of these warranties stop until further notice. The energy regulator Ofgem has also told the energy suppliers to stop the practice. So, will it stop? Nah, they'll just use pressure without warrants to convince poor people to be in their interest, not to rack up big bills, and that a prepaid meter will limit the amount of debt they were getting into. All right, moving on. Monday, back here in Scotland, First Minister's Nicola Sturgeon publishes her tax returns. This forces Dougie Ross to follow suit, and his Poverty Price Sarwar didn't publish his tax return. Now, what did we learn from the First Minister's tax return? She only has one job, and she is saving heavily for her pension. Thanks, Alison. Very generous. She's saving heavily for her pension. That's brilliant. Good thinking for FM. But the interesting part there is one job, only one job. That's concentrating on Job as First Minister and the well-being of the people of Scotland. Now, Dross's tax return shows he gets 72,000 MP salary, and that's topped up with 17,000 odds MSP salary. To be fair to Dougie, and I don't like being fair to Dougie, but he gives his MSP salary completely to charity. There is a tax rebate, you get tax rebate on that, He also has a third job registered, and that third job is as he calls it refereeing services, but he's a linesman, and his 2022 to 2023 tax return shows no revenue. Sorry, 2022 to 2023 tax return shows 21. Anyways, latest tax return shows that he made no money from refereeing services because he was out injured last year. Okay. Right. Also Monday, UK Government and Wales Parliament on collision course as Wales intends to introduce same changes to the Gender Recognition Act as Scotland. The problem for Wales is that they don't have the devolved competence to legislate in this area. A vote's to be held in the Senate to request the transfer of powers under their version of the Scotland Act Section 30. Alright, Welsh Secretary at Westminster, David P.C. Davis, said he'd block any move to devolve the power to change the GRA to Wales. So it looks like the Senate and Westminster are about to go to war with each other. Right, moving on Monday. EU-UK moves closer to implementing NI protocols with an express lane for goods testing for NI only. There'll still be checks, just that they will be fast-tracked for goods for NI only. The DUP are no chuff and will try and block planning approval for customs check areas if they can in the councils and in the Stormont Assembly if it ever gets up and running again. Oof. Right, moving on Monday. And the Tory Graph and the Times report that more problems for Rishi Sunak as his parliamentary bus is full of ex-MPs who could become backseat drivers, as both have strong support from factions in the party. Truss says she's no in a hurry to be PM again, but is demanding tax cuts to stimulate growth. Thank you very much, Red. That is very, very generous of you. Thank you. And Bojo, he does want his old job back. Both Johnson and Truss have no chance of ever getting back into number 10, but unfortunately, their strength in the factions within the Tory party means that Truss and Johnson could force Sunak to follow policies he simply won't want to implement. But because of the factions within the party, in order to put the party together, Sunak might find himself being driven from behind by Truss and Bojo the Clown. Alright, moving on Monday. And Red Tory leader Sir Conrad Tory Starmer says his heart sinks when he hears Truss trying to influence policy, as she was a disaster for the UK economy. That's one way of putting it. And Jen Daly says, simple GRR bill explanation, LGBT religious folks, self-identified Scots are all legally allowed to self-identify as these protected characteristics will gain protection under the law for us. Okay, thank you very much for that, Jen. Eddie, thank you for the donation. Very, very generous of these folks. It really is. Right, moving on Monday. And doing that road, Health Secretary Steve Bartley says to nurses, forget pay rise of 4% offered for 2022 and look forward to see what the 2023 peer review body offers. So I guess the strikes are going on because Steve Bartley's just telling them to forget it. You're not getting a pay rise for 2022. let's see what the peer review body comes up for in 2023. So basically, nurses are getting bugger all. No retrospective dealings for 2022. Wow. So the Tory genocide goes on. It's been on the go since the introduction of genocide in 2000, introduction of austerity in 2012. As you know, down through the years, I've been reporting on the deliberate genocide being carried out within the disabled, the less able communities here in the UK. And of course, COVID that ramped things up. And now with the nurses' strikes, health will suffer. More people will die, especially as we have an ongoing pandemic and the flu epidemic on the go side by side at this point in time. You're right, you can't take Ross's tax returns at any value, because let's face it, last time he found 30 grand in the back of the sofa they would go about. Right, also Monday, major earthquake kills thousands of people in Turkey and Syria. The quakes measured 7.8 and 7.5 in the Richter scale, and the death toll is expected to rise. More natural disaster. That's a bloody sin. But that's basically what I've got for you today, folks. The trying to force nurses out of the NHS into the private sector, Dredge. You're absolutely correct. That's the stories I picked out to talk about for Monday. Okay. Obviously, the big story right across everything yesterday was the quakes in Turkey and Syria. And of course, mankind being mankind has responded with generosity, love, good wishes, and help. When we look around the UK and we see the way that Tories have abandoned and taken away these basic principles of kindness towards the people here, it's a bit heartening to see that elsewhere in the world, and that the citizens here still see the human race as a single race. So when one part of the world gets into trouble, the rest stands up to help. That's great. If we're in domestic politicians, if the English domestic politicians can take that same attitude, because here we do have a First Minister who puts the well-being of the people of Scotland first. But, it's heartening, really heartening, to see the aid pouring into Turkey and Syria in many, many different forms. Mankind has great potential for kindness, for generosity, for love. Just a shame that the politicians, the English people vote for, have none of these capacities and none of these endearing features. Right, let's move on to this morning and see what the rags have got to say. By the way, two Davies will be back this afternoon at 2 o'clock. David's got his plumbing problem sorted out, so anybody who can join us, please do. We're probably going to tear into BP and Shell. I told you last week I was waiting for BP to release its figures this morning. So that'll give David and I something to talk to you about this afternoon. Okay. Sorry, you just get your notification near the end of the show, Geordie. I don't know what's going on there. Right, so let's see what the rags have got to say this morning, shall we, folks? Scotland's papers, justice for Benelin and hellquake devastation. The Scottish Daily Mail, depraved beyond belief. And that's 36 years for sadistic killer. And it says the murder of a young lady and her daughter in Aberdeen by Andrew Innes. We'll come back to that. The Daily Record has inside House of Horrors, concrete grave. This guy buried these two in a concrete grave in his kitchen. Oofed. The Metro says, saved from hellquake, and it's images of children being dragged out of collapsed buildings in Turkey and Syria. The Scotsman has devastation as thousands die in huge quake. And the Scotsman says death tolls now at 3,000 and still rising. The Times has giant quake kills thousands in their sleep. The Scottish Daily Express says thousands more feared dead in truly apocalyptic earthquakes. Quake horror. The National has shows your tax returns, Rishi. First Minister challenged it, and Jack refuses to engage with MSPs over Section 35. Robertson says Holyrood is being given no guidance on what can be done for gender bill law to be removed. The Daily Tory graph has Sturgeon's Transrow sets us back years, says Salmon. Doesn't really matter what Alex got to say. He's not an elected public official. He's entitled to his opinion, but this is just stoking the fire. It's a lot of fish. You know, Mr. Salmon's opinions of it is worth the same as mine. Nothing. I'm not in office. The Eye has Truss comeback has damaged Tories poster warns. Comeback. If that's a comeback, it's the worst one I've seen yet. The Herald has whisky tourism at risk from SNP crackdown on drinks ads. No, it's not. It's not. The tourists come from out with Scotland. The alcohol ad campaign has to do with internal politics. And anybody in Scotland that doesn't know about whisky already, well, I think the term half-wit applies. Right, let's get ourselves back to the Star and see what it's got to say for itself today. The Daily Star of Scotland, damning verdict on double murderer. Among the very worst crimes which have come before the court, says judge. Anyway, as I say, it's this Andrew Innes has been sentenced to 36 years in prison. Half of that's 18, which is generally. What happens, but of course, judges can put down restrictions to ensure that he can't get out. Right? Okay, folks, that's what we'll go today. You're right, bro. We will find out in March after the SNP conference the way forward. It doesn't matter what any of these peripheral parties or ex-politicians really have to say. I mean, the Alpha Party making statements about what they would do. You make statements about what you do when you get into office. Because making statements before it's not going to make any difference. And slagging off your opposition doesn't endear you to the population. Mental. Right. Yeah, Alpha Party telling us how they're going to get his independence. Well, first thing they need to do is get elected. Man, you're right, campaigning. Okay, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it enjoyable. First one of the week after that. So, hopefully, things will get better as the week goes on, he says laughingly. Right, remember, support the independent media. Support Broadcasting Scotland, support Independence Live, support Indie Live Radio, support Caledon Media, support Cruise Radio, support the I Scott magazine and the national newspaper, support independent bloggers. And thank you all very much for your generosity today. Every penny will go towards food. Every penny raised by you guys will go towards food banks. I mean, I think our advertising revenues are about £17, but we're holding on to that in case we need to end for the channel. But that's advertising revenue. That's nothing to do with you guys. Every single penny that you guys donate to the food banks will go to food banks. I can assure you that. And I'll probably pop the 17 quid that we've raised in ad revenue in there and all at me in poker. Okay. And that way we can round it up. So thank you very much today, folks, for tuning in. It's really appreciated. David and I will be back this afternoon. And remember, although the full flu pandemic is abating, remember to follow the last couple of bits of guidance. Clean hands at the surfaces regularly. And if you're in enclosed public spaces, mask up. And if you're not feeling well, especially mask up. Okay, show some compassion to your community. If you're not feeling well, mask up. Use luck. Have a nice day. I'll see you in a couple of hours. David and I will be on at 2 o'clock. And I'll spend the next couple of hours looking into Shell and BP's profits. All right, make sure we get the information that we're both to give you is quite accurate. And we'll see where else the conversation goes through your comments. All right, so the 2 Davies, 2 p.m. the day. If you can join us, please do. If no, you can always catch up later on YouTube or on Facebook. Thanks very much for tuning in this morning, folks. I'll be back tomorrow to review today's news tomorrow morning at 11:15 a.m. All things gone right and considered. Okay, just look after yourselves. Have a nice day.